This is MTG Burgeoning, and in this video we will showcase the contents of Red Color Support Pack number 6 of our Jumpstart Commander Cube. If you haven't been following along or are new to the channel, look in the description of this video for links to the primer video for this series, its playlist, as well as a list of the cards featured in this video. As previously showcased during the primer video for this series, these are the types of cards you can expect to see in every color support pack. Now, with the prologue coming to an end, let's start spotlighting some red support cards, beginning with 3 basic mountains. 1, 2, 3, just like that. And not to be outdone, we've got 3 more basic mountains, but these are of the snow-covered variety. So just like every previous color support pack and every color support pack after this one, the first 6 cards are dedicated to our basic lands. And if you've been following along with this series, then you know that card number 7 is our Thriving Land. And since we're dealing with red, that card is Thriving Bluff. It enters the battlefield tapped, and when it does, we choose a color other than red. We can tap this land to add 1 mana of red color to our mana pool, or 1 mana of the chosen color instead. Next up is going to be our second consecutive non-basic land, but this is going to be the utility land option for this pack, and that is Hidden Volcano. It enters the battlefield tapped. We can tap it to add a red mana to our mana pool, or we can pay 4 in a red mana, tap it and sacrifice it to discover 4. This is an ability that we can only activate as a sorcery. And on a side note, how amazing is the Discover mechanic? I sense it blows Cascade right out of the water, and we're about to find out why. To discover 4, we exile cards from the top of our library until we exile a non-land card with mana value 4 or less. We cast it without paying its mana cost, or we put it into our hand. One of the biggest drawbacks of Cascade is perhaps the card that we stumble upon while cascading is not one that we want to cast at that moment. Well, Discover says if you don't want to cast it, put it into your hand instead. And just like Cascade, all of the other exile cards are put on the bottom of our library in a random order. This is a great way in which to find an answer to a threat during our turn, because of course we have to activate that ability as a sorcery. Or perhaps it's something even better that might help to tip the battlefield in our favor and deliver us eventual victory. All right, our next card in list order is going to be our MDFC, which is our modal double face card. That's going to be a spell on the front and a land in the back. And for this support pack, it's color support pack number 6 of the red variety. That card is Songmad Treachery, a sorcery for 3 and 2 red mana. We gain control of target creature until end of turn. We untap it, and it gains haste until end of turn. Usually, these temporary theft abilities and effects cost between 3 and 4 total mana, so that 1 extra mana is the premium we pay for the purpose of having an MDFC in our pack. If this is too rich for our blood, then we could also just choose, we could rather choose to just play this card on its backside for Songmad Ruins, a land that enters the battlefield tapped, and then we can tap it to add 1 red mana to our mana pool. Since this MDFC does provide us a land option, we're going to slap it up there on top with the rest of our lands. Our next card of this pack is going to be our Planeswalker for this slot, and here it is Jaya, Venerated Fire Mage. Here we have a Planeswalker that enters the battlefield with 5 loyalty counters for an investment of 5 total mana. That's 4 generic and 1 red, and a fantastic return for the mana invested. That's 1 mana per loyalty counter. And as a static ability, if another red source we control would deal damage to a permanent or a player, it deals that much damage plus 1 to that permanent or player instead. instead. So note that any red source, being an instant spell, a sorcery spell, a planeswalker spell, a creature, pretty much anything that's going to deliver direct or combat damage, Jaya says, let's add one more point of damage. And as an additional helping hand, we can take 2 loyalty counters off of Jaya to have her deal 2 damage to any target. Note that Jaya will not tack on the additional 1 point of damage because her static ability says if another red source. So she does not get to do it to herself, but she will be happy to apply that 1 extra point of damage to every other red source we control. Our next card in this support pack is going to be our creature modifier, and that's either going to be an aura or an equipment. And here in red color support pack number 6, it's going to be an aura, and it is Detective's Phoenix. Here we have a 2/2 enchantment creature Phoenix for 2 and 1 red mana. If we cast it for that, we have a 2/2 flying hasty Phoenix that can come into play and attack right away. However, if we so choose to cast the spell for its bestow cost, instead of casting it as a creature spell, we can pay 1 red mana and then collect evidence 6. To collect evidence, we have to exile cards with total mana value 6 or greater from our graveyard. And if we do that, this will enter the battlefield as an aura. We will enchant it to one of our creatures, and that creature will get +2/+2 flying and has haste. So if we do it that way, and then sometime during the game, the creature happens to leave the battlefield, the enchantment will fall off of the creature, and it will become Detective's Phoenix, the actual creature. So it's in our best interest to get the most we can out of this card by casting it for its bestow cost, so that we can get the aura to enchant and modify our creature, and then when that creature leaves play, because this is Commander, it's bound to happen, then we get to have the enchantment fall right off and become a 2/2 flying Phoenix. And then we also may cast Detective's Phoenix from our graveyard using its bestow ability. So even if we go to bestow this card onto our creature, and then an opponent in response removes it from the battlefield, being the creature, and then this fizzles, has no target, and heads straight to the graveyard, we still have the ability to pay that 1 red mana, collect evidence 6, cast it from our graveyard, and slap it on to one of our creatures, giving that creature +2/+2 flying and haste. And all of the same rules apply to what I said earlier. When that creature eventually leaves the battlefield, Detective's Phoenix falls off, becomes a creature, and we start the whole process all over again when that ends up going to the graveyard. The only thing that's slowing us down potentially will be the collecting of evidence 6, but this is Commander. We can expect the graveyards to be rife with cards. This is going to be a fantastic way to keep having this card come back and back and back, and the modest +2/+2 toughness boost and power boost is not going to be overlooked, because the other abilities of flying and haste are so much more impactful. All right, our next card is going to be our Color Strength spell, and if we're talking red, we're talking, what are we saying? We're talking mana acceleration, and we're talking impulse card draw or rummaging. Well, we have both of those features here with Seize the Spoils, a sorcery for 2 and 1 red mana. As an additional cost to cast a spell, we discard a card. We draw 2 cards, and we create a treasure token. So what we do is we spend 3 total mana on the spell. We exchange this card with a discarded card from our hand to draw 2 cards, creating a treasure, which allows us to cut the mana investment of the spell by 33%. That's a pretty good rate that we'll want to take advantage of every day of the week and twice during Friday Night Magic. All right, next up is going to be our Color Strength. Oh, I'm sorry. We already did our Color Strength spell. Our next couple of cards are our spot removal spells. And let's face it, if we're talking about spot removal in red, the first most powerful and most iconic red spell probably in the history of the game at some point in time was going to grace us with its presence. That is Lightning Bolt. 1 red mana to deal 3 damage to any target. It was only a matter of time until we played with this card, and I was certain to go through the coffers to find the oldest version of this card that I could possibly find, and it's so old you could tell. Look. Yeah, look at that. That is actually a stain. We have a stain on this card. That's how old this bad boy is. This is a card that's coming from, I'm pretty sure, not even this century. The white bordered card. Christopher Rush is the artist. Pretty sure this is circa 1990 something, and we're throwing it into this color support pack, the most iconic red spell in the history of the game. Our second spot removal spell, we're going to go from instant to sorcery, and that is Mishra's Command. X and a red, we choose 2 of the following 4 modes. We choose target player, and they may discard up to X cards, and they draw a card for each card discarded this way. This spell deals X damage to target creature. This spell deals X damage to target planeswalker, target creature gets +X/+O and gains haste until end of turn. So we have so many options here, half of which are dealing direct damage to a creature and or direct damage to a planeswalker. The +X boost of power and haste might be a little enticing depending on what we have cooking on our side of the battlefield. Additionally, if we have a handful of cards that we're just not getting much use out of, let's discard them, draw that many, and see if we might have a better go with those newly drawn cards. Either way, the versatility of Mishra's Command, as it fits in a spot removal spot, that's not too redundant, right? As it sits in a spot removal placement in this pack, that's just going to make it an even more impactful card to draw and hopefully cast. Next up, we're going to shift from spot removal to mass removal and disruption, and our first card we're going to talk about is Brotherhood's End. A sorcery for 1 and 2 red mana, we choose 1 of the following 2 modes. Either Brotherhood's End deals 3 damage to each creature and each planeswalker, which at this point in time should be able to remove many creatures and many planeswalkers from all of the battlefield. Note that that ability is symmetrical, so our own creatures and planeswalkers will be dealt the 3 damage from Brotherhood's End. If we don't like that mode, we'll move on to mode 2 and destroy all artifacts with mana value 3 or less. Keeping in mind this will destroy all artifact tokens like treasures, food, junk, clues, because all of those tokens have mana values of 0. The versatility again here reigns supreme. We're either going to wipe the board of a lot of creatures and planeswalkers, or we're going to get rid of a heck of a lot of artifacts. Just keep in mind, both of those effects are symmetrical, so we would end up losing our artifacts as well, which could end up being a soul ring, maybe an arcane signet, maybe a Thalwar stone. Who the heck knows? That's going to be completely board dependent and game state dependent. All right, lastly, we have our last mass removal / disruption spell of this pack, and that is Chandra's Ignition, a sorcery for 3 and 2 red mana. Target creature we control deals damage equal to its power to each other creature and each opponent. With a big enough creature on our side of the battlefield, we could consider Chandra's Ignition to be a win condition, particularly if our opponent's life totals have been whittling down close to 0 throughout the game. We can cast this 5-mana sorcery and just end up winning the game on the spot, sans any interaction with the creature that we control that we're targeting with this spell. All right, next up is going to be our Hate and Defense card, and in red color support pack number 6, that card is Inferno Titan, a 6/6 giant for 4 and 2 red mana. It has fire breathing, which means for every red mana we pump into it, it gets +1/+0 until end of turn. And whenever Inferno Titan enters the battlefield or attacks, it deals 3 damage divided as we choose among 1, 2, or 3 targets. So we can lightning bolt a creature or a planeswalker, we could shock something and then do 1 point of damage to something else, or if we're trying to be as fair as possible, we'll just send 1 point of direct damage to each one of our 3 opponents. Either way, Inferno Titan offers another layer of versatility through its direct damage dealing ability that triggers whenever it enters the battlefield and whenever it attacks. Next up is our resource advancement card. And what we're looking at here is we're looking at some kind of card advantage, mana acceleration, or ways in which to advance our side of the battlefield. And in this color support pack, that comes in the form of Gimli of the Glittering Caves, a 1/1 legendary dwarf warrior for 2 and 1 red mana. Gimli has double strike, and whenever another legendary creature enters the battlefield under our control, we put a +1/+1 counter on Gimli. I don't know exactly how many legendary creatures will be in a Jumpstart Commander deck. We know we have one sitting in the command zone. How many we have total remains to be seen. However, when we do get some +1/+1 counters on the Gimli, even if we don't, the end payoff is well worth the lack of overall legendary creatures, because whenever Gimli deals combat damage to a player, we create a treasure token. So as long as we can get one +1/+1 counter on the Gimli, making it a 2/2 double strike, actually, we don't even need the +1/+1 counter. Let's just say we have Gimli stuck at 1/1. We send a 1/1 double strike at an opponent. Let's say the opponent doesn't have any creatures to block. Gimli deals first strike damage, that is combat damage. We create a treasure token. Then during regular damage, Gimli strikes again for a second point of damage, giving us another treasure token. That's right, for just one double strike, we create 2 treasure tokens as long as Gimli strikes for combat damage during first strike and during regular combat damage. That's why we want to make sure that we can get at least 1 or 2 +1/+1 counters on the Gimli, just so that it can't continuously get blocked down by any potential chump blocking creatures. The bigger we make this Gimli, the more of a threat it is, and if it does strike true, and let's say it's a 3/3, we're going to make 6 total treasure tokens, 3 from first strike damage and 3 from regular combat damage. Yes, now we can see how powerful Gimli could be under the right set of circumstances. Speaking of legendary creatures, our combat enhancement card is one of those legendary creatures that could put a +1/+1 counter onto Gimli, and that is Homura, Human Ascendant. We have a 4/4 legendary human monk for 4 and 2 red mana. Homura cannot block, and when Homura is put into a graveyard from play, we return it to the battlefield flipped. And when we return it to the battlefield flipped, it becomes a legendary enchantment called Homura's Essence. Creatures we control will get +2/+2, have flying, and they get fire breathing, which means we can pay a red mana, and this creature gets +1/+0 until end of turn. Imagine having this legendary enchantment on our side of the battlefield with the Gimli double striking all over the place with that +2/+2 power and toughness boost, and have flying, and have fire breathing with the red mana, giving it +1/+0 for each time we pump it into it. Oh, baby. Our best bet here with Homura is to consistently send it into combat, hoping that eventually an opponent will kill it and send it to the graveyard, because once it does and it dies, we're going to return it flipped as the legendary enchantment, and then we're going to have so much fun. Because everybody knows that in EDH, enchantments have more staying power on the battlefield than creatures. So with that legendary enchantment just sitting out there, giving all of our creatures +2/+2 flying and fire breathing, a round of good games could be heard soon after. All right, here we have it, MTG Burgeoning Community, the last card of the last red color support pack. You know it's an iconic creature type. You already know what it is if you've been following along at home. They are dragons. We just don't know which dragon it's going to be. Well, let's remove the suspense and showcase Scourge of the Throne, a 5/5 flying dragon for 4 and 2 red mana with the dethrone mechanic. And dethrone meaning that whenever this creature attacks the player with the most life or tied for the most life, we put a +1/+1 counter on it. And whenever Scourge of the Throne attacks for the first time each turn, if it is attacking the player with the most life or tied for the most life, we untap all attacking creatures. After this phase, there is an additional combat phase. we can absolutely, unequivocally look at Scourge of the Throne as a potential win condition in any build that's trying to win with creatures and or trying to overwhelm opponents with combat. And even if we slide Scourge of the Throne over just a little bit, the last 4 cards that we showcased here, Inferno Titan, Gimli, and Homura, if we can get Homura to, flip over into Homura's essence, paired along Scourge of the Throne with Gimli, with Inferno Titan, this may be the most powerful 4-card sampling of any color support pack in the Jumpstart Commander Cube. It's going to be difficult to top the power level of all 4 of those cards. Imagine all 4 of them being on our side of the battlefield at the same time. Unlikely, but not impossible. Remember, we have 2 other color support packs to add. We have a colorless support pack and our Jumpstart Commander pack. So, although it is unlikely, perchance to dream. Okay, there you have it, MTG BC. We showcased the contents of Red Color Support Pack number 6 of our Jumpstart Commander Cube. I so look forward to reading your comments about these cards in the comment section below, especially these 4. This is MTG Burgeoning, your channel for all things Magic.